Welcome to Open Science at Leuphana, which is an Innovation Plus project funded by the Lower Saxony Ministry of Science and Culture. My name is David Loschelder.
And my name is Eve Sarah Troll, and we would like to begin with introducing each other. David is Professor for Economic and Social Psychology and also Dean of Research at the Faculty of Business and Economics. And he's passionate about open science, and his research focuses on negotiations, decision-making, pricing, self-control, and sustainable transformation.
Eve is a postdoctoral researcher who is interested in self-control, smartphone use, motivation, and how we achieve our goals in everyday life. She's also very passionate about open science practices and the various ways by which we can improve our scientific work. And there are essentially three reasons for you to watch this brief video today. We have good news and bad news. Let's start with the bad news maybe. First, you will be introduced to the replicability crisis, which essentially means that scientific research studies all of a sudden do not work anymore.
But the good news is we will also introduce you to the open science movement, which seeks to make research in science more open and transparent. And at the end, finally, we will briefly outline the content of all the tutorials of the Open Science at Leuphana project.
Alright, so let's get going. Why these video tutorials on open science at Leuphana? The main reason here is that in the past couple of years we've seen replicability crises that have emerged across various research fields, from medicine to psychology to economics, management, and to sustainability science. But what is this replicability crisis? It means that we have prominent, well-known classics that everyone knows about, established for decades, often with many scholars doing research on these phenomena, teaching them to students, and informing the public about them.
But then all of a sudden, newer attempts to find these classic effects or phenomena do not work or do not replicate. So just to give you an example, for decades, scholars investigated the ego depletion phenomenon to better understand when and why individuals fail at self-control. However, recent replication attempts do not find an effect or only very small effects. So this is the reason why some scholars ask whether ego depletion is real.
If you want to read more about this, here's a paper that we've linked that you can take a look at. And there's another example, for instance, subliminal priming, where study participants were reminded of the concepts professor, and then after having been primed with the concept of professor, performed better in trivia quiz questions than the other half of participants who thought of soccer hooligans. And there was a large open science multi-lab replication attempt, also linked here, led by Mike O'Donnell and Leif Nelson, that did not replicate these original findings. And as these two examples, there's many more other examples in different research disciplines, from medicine, sustainability studies, economics, management, and so forth, that have similar crises of not being able to replicate classics.
And to address this replicability crisis, there's a recent ongoing renaissance in various research disciplines, so also in the psychology, for example. And this ongoing movement is towards more transparency and replicability. And the so-called open science movement encourages researchers to share their research questions and study ideas early on in the whole process of their research, and also to make their data analysis code and materials publicly available. And if you want to read more about this general psychology's renaissance, we also will link you another paper on this topic.
So what are the goals of the Open Science at Leuphana project? We've created a number of video tutorials that seek to give you a quick and easy access to what is out there and how it's done. Open Science at Leuphana seeks to socialize and train students as well as interested researchers and scientists to join this open science movement, with the goal to establish a norm that more and more scientists engage in open science practices.
So to support you in joining the open science movement, we have several video tutorials. First, we will start with a very general introduction to open science practices, and on an exemplary article, we will illustrate the three core principles of open science, and then we will introduce and demonstrate each of those open science practices in more detail. First, we will talk about pre-registration with some more specific information on power analysis and the registered report publishing format. Second, we will have a tutorial on open data and open analysis code. And third, we have some tutorial on open materials.
All right, that is it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write us an email.
And thanks for being here, and enjoy the following videos on open science practices.